Welcome, everyone. One of the best ways to prepare for the IELTS speaking test is to see it in action. That's exactly what we're doing today with this complete mock test from Spinta. As you listen, think about what the candidate does well and where they could improve. Afterwards, we'll compare notes with a full performance breakdown. Let's begin. Hello, my name is Sarah. Can you tell me your full name, please?
Yes, my name is Alex Chen.
Thank you, Alex. Where are you from?
I come from a coastal city called Xiamen in the south of China. It is quite well known for being a bit more relaxed than bigger cities nearby and for its seaside and markets. I have lived there most of my life, but I moved to study in another city for a while, and now I am back, visiting family and working on some freelance projects.
Okay, let's begin with part 1. First, I'd like to ask you some questions about home and family. Do you live in a house or an apartment?
I live in an apartment in a medium-sized building. It is on the 4th floor and it has good light because there are a few tall buildings around. My flat is not very big, but it is comfortable for me. I like that it is near a park where I can go for a run in the morning. When I was a child, we lived in a bigger house, and that was different because I had my own small room, but now the space is smaller and more practical.
How long have you lived there?
About 3 years now. I moved there after I finished university because it was near my first job. Before that, I was living in a shared flat with friends, which was fun but sometimes noisy. This place gave me a little bit more peace, and I could set up a small study corner for work.
What do you enjoy most about your neighborhood?
I enjoy the community feel, actually. There are small shops, and the owners know many of the locals, so there is a friendly atmosphere. Also, there is a weekend market with fresh food, and it reminds me of home cooking because my mother, she used to go to markets every morning. The public transport is convenient too, so visiting friends or going to the city center is easy.
Right. Now let's talk about work or study. Are you working or studying at the moment?
I am working as a user experience designer for a small tech company, and I also do some freelance design work on the side. It gives me flexibility, and I can take projects that interest me, for example, a charity website I worked on last year. Sometimes it is hard to balance the workload, but overall I find the mix stimulating because I learn different things from each project.
Why did you choose that kind of work?
I chose it because I like the combination of creativity and problem solving. When I was studying graphic design at university, I realized I enjoyed thinking about how people use products and how small changes can make things easier or more enjoyable. Also, the tech industry evolves quickly, so there is always new stuff to learn, which suits me because I get bored with routine jobs.
How has your work changed over time?
When I first started, my role was mainly visual design and making things look nice. Over time, I have moved into more research and strategy, doing user interviews, prototyping, and testing. I think I became more interested in the user side, not only the interface. If I would have focused only on visuals, I would miss the chance to work on more meaningful problems, so I am glad I learned those broader skills.
Okay, let's move on to hobbies. What do you do in your free time?
In my free time, I like running, reading, and cooking. Running helps me clear my head, especially in the mornings before work. I usually run 3 times a week, and sometimes I join a small local group for longer runs on weekends. Reading is something I do every night. I prefer nonfiction about design or history, but I also read novels occasionally. Cooking is more of a recent hobby. I enjoy trying recipes from different countries. Last month I attempted to make a Persian stew, and it turned out surprisingly well.
How long have you been running?
About 6 years. I started because I wanted to keep fit, but it became something I look forward to. I did small races at first, and later I tried a half marathon, which was challenging but rewarding. Running taught me discipline, because training has to be consistent, and it also introduced me to people who later became friends.
What do you enjoy most about cooking?
I enjoy the process of trying new ingredients and the satisfaction when a dish works. Also, cooking is social. I like inviting friends and sharing a meal, which makes conversation easier. When I cook a new recipe, I feel quite proud. Sometimes I make mistakes. For example, I might add too much spice, and then I learn for next time. Sorry, what I mean is I learn from those mistakes and it becomes part of the fun.
Right. Now some questions about daily routine. What is your typical weekday like?
A typical weekday starts early. I wake up around 6, go for a short run or do stretching, then I make breakfast and check emails. My workday usually begins at 9 with a team stand-up meeting, and then I split my time between meetings and focused design work. I try to block out 2 hours for uninterrupted work every morning because that is when I am most productive. In the evening, I cook dinner, read a bit, and prepare for the next day.
Do you prefer routine or variety in your day?
I prefer balance. Some routine is good because it gives structure and helps me be productive, but too much routine becomes boring. I like to have planned blocks for work, but also leave room for creative exploration or meeting friends. When projects require travel or irregular hours, I appreciate the variety because it breaks monotony, but after a while I return to a more stable pattern.
Okay, one last topic in part 1 about future plans. What are your plans for the next 5 years?
Professionally, I hope to take on more leadership responsibilities, maybe leading a small design team, or running projects that combine research and service design. I would also like to travel more and learn another language, perhaps Spanish, because it will open up opportunities to work with teams in other countries. Personally, I hope to save and buy a small place of my own. I know 5 years is long, but I prefer setting flexible goals rather than rigid plans.
How likely is it you will move to another country for work?
It is possible, and I would be open to it, but it depends on timing and whether the opportunity is compelling. I have friends who moved abroad, and they say adapting takes time, but the experience is enriching. If I had a chance to work on projects that interest me and it meant living abroad for a couple of years, I would probably consider it.
That is the end of part 1. Now we will move to part 2. Here is your topic card. You will have 1 minute to prepare, and then you should speak for 1.5 to 2 minutes. Your topic is describe a memorable meal you had. Please say when and where it was, who you were with, what you ate, and explain why it was memorable.
Thank you. I will talk about a meal I had 2 years ago at a small family-run restaurant in Lisbon while I was visiting Portugal with a close friend. We had planned the trip for a month, and on that evening we decided to explore a quieter neighborhood away from the tourist areas. The restaurant was on a narrow street with simple wooden tables and a long menu written on a chalkboard. My friend ordered a fish stew, and I chose a traditional dish called bacalhau, which is salted cod cooked with potatoes and olives. The flavors were layered, and there was a warmth in the spice that reminded me of home cooking, but with a different twist. What made the meal memorable was not only the food, but the atmosphere and the conversation. The owner came to our table and told stories about how the recipes had been in his family for generations, and we talked late into the night about traveling, careers, and where we saw ourselves in the future. I remember feeling content and connected, which is rare when you are in a new place and meet people who share their life so openly. Also, at the end of the meal, they brought a small dessert on the house, and we felt welcomed in a way that made the evening feel special. It was one of those moments where food, place, and people combined to create a memory that stayed with me. Is that enough detail, or shall I add anything else?
That is good. Tell me more about how the local people made you feel welcome.
They made us feel welcome by treating us like regulars, even though it was obvious we were visitors. The owner and the waitstaff spoke slowly and tried to explain every dish, sometimes using gestures because our Portuguese was limited. They recommended a dessert and refused payment for a small extra plate, which surprised us. The neighbor diners also smiled, and some offered tips about sites to visit the next day. I think hospitality is part of Portuguese culture, and experiencing it at that dinner made the trip more authentic. It felt like being invited into someone's home, rather than simply eating at a business.
Right. Thank you. Now, part 3. I'd like to ask some questions related to food and culture. First, do you think eating habits have changed in your country over the last 20 years?
Yes, eating habits have changed a lot. There is more variety available now because of globalization, and many people eat out more often due to busy lifestyles. Traditional dishes are still popular, but younger generations often prefer faster or international food, such as burgers or sushi. At the same time, there is also a growing interest in health and organic food, so markets and restaurants are offering more plant-based options. The net result is that food culture is more diverse, and people have more choices but perhaps less time to cook elaborate traditional meals as they used to.
What are the main reasons for these changes?
The main reasons are urbanization, higher incomes, and influence from other cultures. Urban life often means smaller kitchens and longer working hours, which pushes people towards dining out or convenient food. Increased international travel and media also expose people to different cuisines, creating demand for diversity in restaurants. Additionally, health information and environmental concerns influence choices for some people, so there is also a push towards sustainable eating and reducing meat consumption in certain groups.
How important is food to national identity?
Food plays a big role in national identity because cuisine carries history, climate, and community practices. Dishes passed down generations connect people to their roots, and celebrations often revolve around food. For example, certain festivals are impossible to imagine without specific meals. However, identity is not fixed, and as food evolves, national cuisine can adapt too. Some worry that globalized food weakens national identity, but I think identity can be both preserved and enriched when people adopt new ingredients while keeping core traditions.
Do you think governments should do more to protect traditional food cultures?
To some extent, yes. Governments can support traditional food through cultural programs, funding for small producers, and education about culinary heritage. This support helps keep recipes and farming practices alive and can also boost tourism. But it should not be coercive. People must be free to choose what they eat. The most effective approach might be to incentivize preservation rather than impose regulations, for example, by supporting local markets and culinary schools.
Interesting. How does advertising affect people's food choices?
Advertising has a powerful impact because it shapes perceptions about convenience, desirability, and status. Fast food and snack companies spend a lot on marketing, often targeting younger consumers with imagery and promotions. This can normalize less healthy options. Conversely, social media influencers sometimes promote healthy or artisanal food, which can shift trends too. Overall, advertising affects what people think is fashionable to eat, and that in turn influences consumption patterns, sometimes more than price or availability.
Okay, do you think people's cooking skills are changing?
Cooking skills are changing, yes. Some basic skills are declining because people rely on ready-made meals, but at the same time there is a resurgence of interest in cooking as a hobby. Online tutorials and recipe blogs have made learning easier. So we see a split, a portion of the population with limited home cooking ability, and another group who are becoming quite sophisticated, using recipes from around the world. Education and family culture often determine which side people fall on.
Why do some people prefer fast food even when they know it's not healthy?
Convenience is the biggest reason. Fast food fits busy schedules, and it is predictable in taste. For many people, cost matters too. Sometimes it is cheaper in the short term, though not always healthier. Habit and social factors matter as well. Meeting friends at fast food places can be social glue. Also, psychological factors like stress or the reward value of tasty, high-fat or sugar foods lead people to choose them despite knowing the health consequences.
Right, now some hypothetical questions. If food prices rose significantly, how would families adapt?
Families would adapt by adjusting diets and shopping habits, They might buy less meat and more vegetables or staples like rice and beans, which are more filling and cheaper. Home cooking would likely increase as eating out becomes too expensive. People may also seek local and seasonal produce, which can be more affordable than imported goods. In the long term, higher prices could also spur innovation in plant-based foods or pressure governments to provide support for low-income families.
Do you think technology will change how we eat in the future?
Technology will definitely change eating habits. Delivery apps already changed how we access food, and automation could change food production and cooking. We might see more personalized nutrition, where apps recommend diets based on health data. Lab-grown meat or meat alternatives will likely become common, and smart kitchen appliances could simplify cooking. But technology is a tool. Cultural preferences will shape how it is used. Some people will embrace convenience, while others will resist and seek traditional methods.
Finally, do you think food can bring people from different cultures together?
Yes, food is a universal language of sorts. Sharing a meal invites conversation and curiosity. When people taste and prepare each other's food, they often learn about customs and history. I have found that cooking for friends from different backgrounds leads to mutual respect and exchange of ideas. Food creates a low barrier to connection that can build friendships and break down stereotypes.
Thank you. That is the end of part 3 in the speaking test. Do you have anything you would like to add?
No, thank you. It was a good chance to reflect on things I enjoy and the way food shapes life.
The candidate demonstrated band 7.5 level performance. Notable grammatical errors included saying, "If I would have known, I would went there when it should be. If I had known, I would have gone there," and saying, "I have lived here since 5 years when it should be, I have lived here for 5 years." A third example was using interested about instead of interested in when talking about hobbies, which would be interested in. These errors were occasional and appeared in more complex structures such as conditionals and time expressions. They did not prevent understanding, but they did appear throughout the test. Fluency was generally strong with natural speech flow and only minimal hesitations or short self-corrections for clarity. The candidate used a wide range of vocabulary with some impressive choices like layered flavors, culinary heritage, and personalized nutrition, although there were a few imprecise collocations such as saying social glue to describe social aspects of fast food. Grammatically, strengths included accurate use of complex sentences, good linking, and a strong control of tense in most places. Weaknesses were mainly in more complex structures and prepositions where occasional slips occurred. This performance merits a band 7.5 because communication was clear, coherent, and appropriately extended with few but noticeable errors in complex grammar and occasional word choice imprecision. What prevented a higher score were the remaining systematic slips in conditionals and prepositional phrases and a couple of collocation errors, which reduced precision. To reach the next band level, the candidate should focus on eliminating errors in complex structures, practice accurate use of prepositions and refine collocations, and less common vocabulary. Continued speaking practice under timed conditions and targeted grammar review of mixed conditionals and time expressions would be most useful. Thank you for practicing with this IELTS speaking mock test. Visit Spinta for more comprehensive mock tests and personalized feedback to boost your IELTS score.